American families will no longer face the threat of prosecution for trying to pay ransom to rescue family members abducted abroad. Let's bring in now national security expert Lawrence Korb, a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress and an expert on national security issues. Larry, welcome back to Arise Xchange. This is a very controversial issue. How do you tell family members not to do everything they can to bring back relatives who are kidnapped overseas? But it has been the U.S. longstanding policy until now to prohibit paying ransom. You think this policy change is long overdue?
Well, I think so, particularly for families. Even though that was the law, nobody was ever prosecuted under it, but it certainly did have a dampening effect on families who might have wanted to use their own means or to work with others to get them back, just as happens in some of our closest allies, like the Germans, the French, the Italians.
The argument, however, here is that this will make Americans more attracted to hostage takers. Americans are generally richer to begin with, and that there's more money and more resources to pay this ransom, and that when you look overseas, is it accurate to say that the French are kidnapped more, the Italians are kidnapped more, countries that allow this are kidnapped more?
Well, we're a larger country, we're more involved, but don't forget, I mean, and this was surprising when Lisa Monaco, Obama's point person on this yesterday, said over 30 Americans are being held hostage. So this policy obviously hadn't been working if they got over 30 people, in addition to the several that have been killed in the last year, knowing we wouldn't pay ransom and it would have been illegal for those people to pay ransom.
Is it successful when you look at ISIS and other terrorist groups that when ransom is paid, do the hostages actually get coming home?
Well, they have. I mean, in countries other than the United States, this has happened. They have let them out. I mean, ISIS, one of its main goals is to get money because it wants to be a state and, you know, run itself like a state, and this certainly would help them. But it's not only ISIS that is, you know, taking Americans hostage. We have a lot of Americans have been kidnapped for lots of other reasons. Members of the press because they don't like the stories that they're writing, for example.
And is this policy across the board? For example, if you're a corporate executive and you're kidnapped overseas, not necessarily by a terrorist group, does this basically, is it a broad-based policy now?
Well, again, nobody's ever been prosecuted under it, but what now we're saying we won't prosecute. So therefore, you know, if you decide for whatever reason, and again, calling somebody a hostage is really in the eyes of the beholder. If somebody got you and they said, we won't, you know, let you come back unless you pay ransom, and it's a foreign country, you can be considered a hostage.
Larry, how has the United States done over the past few years in negotiating the release of hostages or taking even military action to get back hostages? Our hands are often tied.
Well, we have gotten some back through, you know, military action. Unfortunately, a lot have been killed both by ISIS and even by us. In the last attempt, we wanted to use a drone attack on one of the Al-Qaeda leaders, and it turned out that 2 American hostages were in the same place. The record has not been great. We compared to other countries, we have rescued people, and I do think it's important we keep trying. Our special forces go in, like they went into Syria, they just missed a couple of people. So we have, you know, we have tried that, and we have, you know, gotten some back. But I do think this is a policy now that says the government's going to work together. Here's something else. The FBI is now going to work with the State Department and the Pentagon. Previously, they had not been working together.
And it's important to note it's not a change in government policy, right? The government is not going to pay ransom.
That's right.
It's private individuals.
That's right. And you won't be prosecuted, or the fear of prosecution, which has kept a lot of families from doing it up to now.
Yeah, and recently the administration has been pretty aggressive in coming out and saying that. Larry Korb, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Washington, D.C.